I became someone's emergency fake date for a family dinner, and now she's the mother of my children. Diana Ashford grabbed my arm in the parking lot of Marcello's restaurant on a Friday evening in October, her fingers digging into my jacket sleeve hard enough that I stopped walking. I'd never seen her before in my life. She was wearing a dark blue dress and heels, her hair pulled back, her makeup perfect, except for the mascara starting to run beneath her eyes. "Please help me," she said, her voice shaking. "I need you to come inside and pretend to be my boyfriend for 2 hours. My family is in there, and I told them I was bringing someone, and he canceled last minute, and if I go in alone, they're going to spend the entire dinner trying to set me up with someone I absolutely cannot be with." I stared at her, trying to process what was happening. "You want me to pretend to be your boyfriend?" "Yes, please. I know this is insane, but I'm desperate, and you're here and you look normal, and I will pay you whatever you want." Her hand was still gripping my arm, and I could feel her trembling. I should have said no. I should have walked away from this clearly unstable situation and gone inside to meet my friend Kevin for dinner. But something in her expression stopped me. It wasn't just panic. It was fear. Real fear. "Who are they trying to set you up with?" I asked. She released my arm and wrapped her own arms around herself. "My ex-fiancé. We were engaged for 3 years, and I called it off 8 months ago because he was controlling and emotionally abusive. My family loved him because he's wealthy and comes from the right background, and they think I made a mistake leaving him. They invited him to this dinner without telling me, and now he's in there, and they're going to push us together all night, and I can't do this alone." She was crying now, not sobbing, but silent tears running down her face. "They don't believe me when I say he was abusive. They think I'm being dramatic. If I show up with someone else, someone who's clearly better than him, maybe they'll finally drop it." I looked through the restaurant windows and saw a large group seated at a table near the back. A man in an expensive suit was sitting at the head, looking smug and comfortable. "Which one is he?" Diana followed my gaze. "The one in the navy suit. That's Preston. He's already sitting with my family and acting like he belongs there." Preston looked exactly like the type of guy who'd be emotionally abusive and get away with it because he had money and connections. I made a decision I'd probably regret. "Okay, I'll do it. But you need to tell me some basic information so I don't blow this in the first 5 minutes." Diana's face transformed with relief. "Thank you. God, thank you so much. My name is Diana Ashford. I'm 29. I work in marketing for a tech company. What's your name?" "Nathan Cross. I'm 31. I'm a civil engineer." "Okay, how did we meet?" She was thinking fast now, wiping her eyes. "Let's say we met through mutual friends 3 months ago. We've been dating since August. You're here because I wanted you to meet my family." We walked toward the restaurant entrance together, and Diana took my hand. Her palm was sweaty and cold. "My father is Richard Ashford. He owns a commercial real estate company. My mother is Patricia. She's very concerned with appearances and status. My brother is William. He's 35, and he works for my father. He's married to Ashley. They're both going to judge you immediately." "Sounds delightful. I'm so sorry about this. If there was anyone else I could have asked, I would have." We reached the table, and Diana's entire family turned to look at us. Richard Ashford was a large man in his 60s with silver hair and the confident bearing of someone who'd never been told no. Patricia was thin and elegant, with a fixed smile that didn't reach her eyes. William looked like a younger version of his father, already developing the same arrogant posture. Ashley was studying her phone and barely looked up. Preston stood immediately when he saw us, his expression shifting from confident to confused to angry in quick succession. "Diana, darling, you're late," Patricia said, her tone suggesting this was a personal failing. "And who is this?" Diana squeezed my hand. "Mom, Dad, everyone. This is Nathan Cross, my boyfriend. Nathan, this is my family." I shook hands with Richard first. His grip was deliberately too firm, a power play. "Nathan Cross, what do you do?" "I'm a civil engineer. I work on infrastructure projects, mostly bridges and water systems." Richard's eyebrow raised slightly. "Engineer. Interesting. Not as lucrative as real estate, but respectable enough." Preston had sat back down but was staring at me with undisguised hostility. Diana had positioned us so we were sitting directly across from him. This wasn't accidental. She wanted him to see us together the entire meal. Patricia was studying me with the intensity of someone evaluating livestock. How did you and Diana meet, Nathan? Through mutual friends about 3 months ago. We hit it off immediately. Preston leaned forward. That's funny. Diana didn't mention she was seeing anyone when we spoke last month. Diana's hand tightened on mine under the table. That's because we're not on speaking terms, Preston. I don't owe you information about my personal life. We were engaged for 3 years. I think that earns me some consideration. We were engaged. Past tense. I broke it off, and I've moved on. The tension at the table was suffocating. Richard cleared his throat. Preston is here as a family friend. We've known him for years, and we value his presence regardless of your relationship status, Diana. It was a clear message. Preston was welcome. I was being evaluated. The waiter came and took drink orders. Diana ordered wine. I ordered water. I wanted to stay completely sober for whatever was about to happen. Patricia turned her attention back to me. Tell us about your family, Nathan. Where are you from? I grew up in Ohio. Small town. My father was a teacher and my mother was a nurse. I have one sister. Patricia's smile became even more fixed. How nice. Public servants. The contempt in her voice was subtle but unmistakable. William jumped in. What kind of projects do you work on? Anything significant? Currently, I'm working on a bridge replacement project that will improve traffic flow and safety for about 50,000 daily commuters. Sounds like government contract work. Decent money, but nothing spectacular. He said it casually, but the dismissal was clear. Preston was watching this with satisfaction. They were testing me, trying to prove I wasn't good enough for their daughter. Diana was sitting rigid beside me. Ashley finally looked up from her phone. How serious are you two? Diana has a history of impulsive decisions. Diana's jaw clenched. I'm 29 years old. I'm allowed to make my own choices. Choices that often need to be corrected, Richard said. Like calling off a perfectly good engagement to a successful man from a good family because you got cold feet. I'd had enough. It wasn't cold feet. Diana told me Preston was emotionally abusive. That's not something you work through or get over. That's something you escape from. The table went silent. Preston's face flushed red. Abusive? Is that what she told you? I loved her. I gave her everything. Giving someone material things while controlling their every move isn't love. It's ownership. Diana was staring at me with wide eyes. I'd just escalated a situation I barely understood, but I couldn't sit there and watch these people gaslight her about her own experience. Richard's expression hardened. That's a serious accusation. Preston has been nothing but respectful and generous. Then why did Diana feel the need to grab a complete stranger in a parking lot and beg him to pretend to be her boyfriend so she wouldn't have to face him alone at dinner? The words were out before I could stop them. Diana's hand went limp in mine. Every face at the table registered shock, then anger, then calculation. Patricia recovered first. You're not actually dating? We weren't until about 10 minutes ago, I said. But after meeting all of you and seeing how you treat her, I understand why she was desperate enough to ask a stranger for help. Preston stood up, his chair scraping loudly. This is unbelievable. You brought a random man to family dinner to humiliate me? Diana found her voice. No, Preston. I brought him because I was afraid. Because my family invited you here without telling me after I specifically said I never wanted to see you again. Because every time I try to set boundaries, you all ignore them and pressure me to reconcile with someone who spent 3 years making me feel worthless. Her voice was getting louder. Nathan is right. He is a stranger. I saw him in the parking lot, and I was so panicked about facing all of you that I grabbed him and begged him to help me. And you want to know the worst part? He agreed. A complete stranger showed me more compassion in 5 minutes than my own family has shown me in 8 months. Richard slammed his hand on the table. That's enough. Diana, you're being hysterical. I'm not hysterical. I'm angry. I'm angry that you keep forcing Preston on me. I'm angry that you won't listen when I tell you what he did. I'm angry that you care more about his family's money and connections than you care about my well-being. William spoke up. Nobody's forcing anyone. We just think you made a rash decision, and you should reconsider before you end up alone. I'd rather be alone than be with someone who monitors my phone, criticizes my appearance, and isolates me from my friends. Diana was standing now, pulling me up with her. Nathan, we're leaving. We walked out of the restaurant while her family called after us. Preston followed us into the parking lot. Diana, wait. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Diana said, not turning around. Preston grabbed her arm. You owe me a conversation at minimum. I stepped between them. She doesn't owe you anything. Let go of her arm. Preston didn't release her. Instead, he tightened his grip. This doesn't concern you. You admitted you're not even really dating her. Let go of her arm, now. My voice was calm, but my posture had shifted into something that made Preston reconsider. He was wealthy and arrogant, but he wasn't stupid. He released Diana's arm and stepped back. This isn't over. Her family will make her see reason. Her family doesn't own her. She's an adult who made a decision. Respect it. Preston looked at Diana with something ugly in his expression. You'll regret this. You're nothing without your family's support, and when they cut you off, you'll come crawling back. He walked away before either of us could respond. Diana was shaking again, harder this time. Oh, God. What did I just do? My father is going to kill me. William is going to make my life hell at every family event. And Preston was right. They're going to cut me off financially. I guided her to a bench near the parking lot entrance. Do they actually have financial control over you? My trust fund is managed by my father. He can restrict access if he decides I'm making poor decisions. It's happened before when I first tried to break up with Preston. He withheld funds until I agreed to go to couples counseling. The full picture was becoming clear. This wasn't just about family pressure. This was financial coercion. That's not legal if the trust is actually yours. The trust was set up with conditions. My father has discretionary control until I'm 35, or married to someone he approves of. So, he's using money to control your life choices. Diana nodded, tears falling again. I didn't realize how bad it was until I tried to leave Preston. Then suddenly everything I'd taken for granted, my apartment, my car, my health insurance, everything became a bargaining chip. I sat beside her. What happened in there? What you said about Preston, about your family, that took courage. It also probably cost me everything. My father is going to retaliate. William is going to side with him because he works for the company. My mother will be devastated about the social embarrassment. And Preston has connections everywhere. He could make it hard for me to find work. She was spiraling into panic. I needed to ground her. Diana, breathe. You have a job that's separate from your family, right? Yes, but it doesn't pay enough to cover my current expenses if they cut off the trust fund. Then you adjust your expenses. You move to a cheaper apartment. You live within your actual means instead of being dependent on people who use money to manipulate you. She looked at me. You don't understand. I've never lived without that safety net. I don't know how. You learn. Most people figure it out because they don't have a choice. You're smart and employed. You'll be fine. Diana wiped her eyes. Why are you helping me? You could have walked away the second we left the restaurant. Because what just happened in there was wrong. Your family is using financial control to force you into a relationship with someone who hurt you. That's not okay. But you're a stranger. This isn't your problem. Maybe not. But I grew up watching my father stand up for people when nobody else would. He was a teacher in a small town, and sometimes kids would come to him with problems their own families wouldn't help with. He taught me that when you see someone being mistreated, you don't walk away just because it's not your fight. Diana was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I shouldn't have put you in that position. I agreed to help, and honestly, seeing your family's reaction confirmed that you made the right choice leaving Preston. She managed a small smile. You were pretty impressive in there, the way you shut down Preston when he tried to justify the abuse. I have a low tolerance for men who think money excuses bad behavior. We sat there for another few minutes while Diana composed herself. Finally, she said, I should probably let you go. I'm sure you had other plans tonight. I was supposed to meet a friend for dinner, but I can reschedule. No, you should go. You've already sacrificed enough of your evening. She stood up, and I stood with her. Thank you, Nathan, for everything. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been in that parking lot. You would have figured something out. You're stronger than you think. She pulled out her phone. Can I get your number? I'd like to at least buy you dinner sometime to thank you properly. I gave her my number, and she texted me so I'd have hers. Take care of yourself, Diana. And if your family tries to retaliate, document everything. Financial coercion can be challenged legally. I will, thank you. We parted ways in the parking lot, and I watched her drive away before heading back inside to find Kevin. Kevin was at the bar where we'd agreed to meet. He took one look at my face and ordered me a beer. What happened to you? You look like you just survived a war. I told him the entire story. Kevin listened without interrupting until I finished. So let me get this straight. A random woman grabbed you, asked you to be her fake boyfriend, you went to dinner with her nightmare family, called out her abusive ex, and then gave her advice about escaping financial coercion? That about covers it. Nathan, you're either the best person I know or the most naive. What would you have done? Kevin thought about it. Probably the same thing, but I'd be more worried about the consequences. This Preston guy sounds like trouble, and her family clearly has resources. They could make things difficult for her. Which is exactly why she needed someone to stand with her, even if it was just for one dinner. Kevin shook his head. You're going to hear from her again. People don't just walk away from situations like that. Maybe. Or maybe she'll figure things out on her own and move on. I didn't hear from Diana for 3 days. Then on Monday morning, I got a text. My father cut off my trust fund access. You were right about everything. I called her immediately. Are you okay? Financially, no. Emotionally? Actually kind of relieved. At least now I know where I stand. What's your plan? I'm looking for a cheaper apartment. I called my bank about the car lease and I'm going to return it and buy something used I can actually afford. I canceled all the credit cards my father pays for. I'm basically starting over. Her voice was steadier than it had been Friday night. That takes guts. I don't feel very gutsy. I feel terrified. But also free? Is that weird? No, freedom usually comes with fear at first. Can I ask you something? Diana said. Sure. Would you want to get coffee sometime? Not as a thank you, but because I'd actually like to get to know you better. You saw me at my absolute worst, and you didn't judge me. That's rare. I hesitated. This woman had just blown up her entire life and was in the middle of a major transition. Getting involved romantically seemed complicated, but I also couldn't deny that I'd thought about her constantly since Friday. Coffee sounds good. When are you free? We met at a cafe near her office on Wednesday after work. She looked different in business casual clothes with her hair down, more relaxed. We ordered coffee and found a table by the window. So, Diana said, I want to apologize again for Friday. I ambushed you and dragged you into family drama that wasn't your responsibility. You already apologized. You don't need to keep doing it. I know, but now that I'm thinking clearly, I realize how crazy that must have looked. Desperate woman grabs stranger in parking lot. It did look crazy, I admitted, but it also made sense once you explained the situation. Has anything like that ever happened to you before? Not even close. I live a pretty boring life usually. Work, gym, occasional dinners with friends. This was the most dramatic thing I've been involved in since college. Diana laughed. What happened in college? Roommate got involved with a professor who was married. It ended badly and there was a whole investigation. I ended up testifying about what I'd witnessed. It was messy. Sounds like you have a pattern of getting pulled into other people's drama. Maybe. Or maybe I just have a hard time walking away when I see someone being treated unfairly. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about her job in marketing, her frustration with tech industry culture, her love of photography. I told her about bridge engineering, my sister who taught elementary school in Ohio, my failed attempt at learning guitar. It was easy, natural. By the time we left the cafe, I knew I wanted to see her again. Can I take you to dinner Friday? I asked as we walked to our cars. Like a real date? Like a real date. No fake relationship. No family drama. Just us. Diana smiled. I'd like that. But fair warning, my life is still pretty chaotic right now. I'm in the middle of moving. My family is not speaking to me, and Preston keeps calling from different numbers trying to convince me to meet with him. I can handle chaotic. Okay, Friday then. We exchanged goodnight and I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe even excitement. Friday's dinner went well. We went to a small Italian restaurant and talked until they started closing. I learned that Diana had wanted to be a photographer, but her family had pushed her into business school. She still took photos on weekends, mostly nature and street photography. I showed her pictures from a bridge project I'd worked on in Colorado. She was genuinely interested in the engineering challenges, asking questions that showed she was actually listening. When I drove her home, she kissed me goodnight. It was brief, but meaningful. We started seeing each other regularly after that, 2 or 3 times a week at first, then more. Diana found a small apartment in an older building that she could afford on her salary. She returned the leased luxury car and bought a used sedan. She was learning to live within her means and seemed lighter for it. Her family didn't contact her for 6 weeks. Then on a Sunday afternoon in December, her mother called. Diana put it on speaker so I could hear. I'd started staying over at her apartment on weekends. "Diana, it's your mother. I'm calling because it's almost Christmas, and this situation has gone on long enough." "Hello, Mom. Your father wants you to come to Christmas dinner. Preston won't be there. We can have a civilized family meal and discuss your future." Diana looked at me, and I nodded encouragement. "What future are we discussing?" "Your trust fund, your position in the family, your relationship choices. All of it. Your father is willing to reinstate your access to funds if you agree to certain conditions." "What conditions?" "End this relationship with that engineer. He's not appropriate for our family. Go back to couples counseling with Preston. Give the relationship one more genuine chance. If after 6 months you still want to leave, your father will respect your decision and maintain your trust fund access regardless." Diana's expression hardened. "No. Diana, be reasonable. You're living in that tiny apartment working a job that barely pays your bills. You're driving a car that's 10 years old. This is beneath you. This is real life, Mom. This is what most people deal with, and I'm handling it fine. You're being stubborn. Nathan is clearly using you for access to our family's money and connections." I couldn't stay quiet. "Mrs. Ashford, this is Nathan. I'm not using Diana for anything. I didn't even know who her family was until she told me about the situation with Preston. I don't want or need your money." Patricia's voice turned cold. "This doesn't concern you." "It does when you're accusing me of being a gold digger while simultaneously trying to bribe your daughter back into an abusive relationship. Preston was never abusive. Diana exaggerates everything for attention. I've seen the text messages Preston sent her after she left, the ones where he threatens to ruin her reputation if she doesn't come back. The ones where he calls her worthless and stupid. That's abuse, Mrs. Ashford." Silence on the other end. Then, "She showed you private communications?" "She showed me evidence of why she left, and every day I know her. I understand more why she was willing to grab a stranger for help rather than face your family alone." Patricia hung up without another word. Diana sat on the couch looking drained. "They're never going to accept this. Accept us. Do you need them to accept it?" She thought about that. "No, I don't think I do anymore. 3 months ago, I would have said yes, but now, I'm happier than I've been in years. I'm free to make my own choices. I'm with someone who respects me. Why would I give that up for their approval?" I sat beside her. "You're doing great. Better than great." Christmas came and Diana didn't go to her family's dinner. We spent it together at my apartment. My sister called from Ohio, and I introduced Diana over video chat. They talked for 30 minutes about teaching and photography. It was easy and warm. Diana kept saying she couldn't believe how normal my family was. "Not everyone uses money as a weapon," I told her. "Some families actually like each other." "I want that," she said quietly. "I want a family that's built on love instead of obligation and control." "Then we'll build one." It was too soon to say things like that. We'd only been dating for 3 months, but it felt right. In January, Preston showed up at Diana's office. Building security called her before letting him up, so she had warning. She called me immediately. I left my job site and drove straight there. By the time I arrived, Preston was in the lobby arguing with security. "You can't keep me from talking to her. I have a right to see her." "Actually, you don't," Diana said, stepping out of the elevator with me beside her. "I've asked you multiple times to stop contacting me. I've blocked your numbers. I've told you we're done. This is harassment." Preston saw me and his expression darkened. "Of course you brought him. Your fake boyfriend. He's my real boyfriend now, and he's here because I don't feel safe around you alone. Safe? I never hurt you, Diana. I loved you. You controlled me. You monitored my phone and my email. You criticized everything I did. You isolated me from my friends. You made me feel small and worthless. That's hurt, Preston. Just because you didn't hit me doesn't mean you didn't hurt me. Preston's hands clenched into fists. I gave you everything. A beautiful ring, a future, a life most women would kill for. I didn't want those things at the cost of my autonomy. Diana's voice was steady. I want a partner, not a owner. I want someone who trusts me and respects me. You could never give me that. Security stepped forward. Sir, you need to leave the building now or we'll call the police. Preston looked at Diana with something cold in his eyes. You're making a mistake. When this poverty romance falls apart and your family money runs out, don't come crawling back to me. I won't. Goodbye, Preston. He left, and Diana's hands were shaking when she grabbed mine. That was the first time I've seen him since the restaurant. You handled it perfectly. Strong and clear. I was terrified. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway. We went back to my place that night and Diana didn't go home. She basically moved in over the next few weeks, though she kept her apartment lease for another 3 months before officially giving it up. My one bedroom wasn't huge, but it fit both of us. She set up a corner for her photography equipment. I made room in the closet for her clothes. We figured out how to share space and routines. It was surprisingly easy. In March, Diana got a promotion at work. Not a huge one, but meaningful. More responsibility, better salary. She was proud of herself in a way she never had been when living off trust fund money. I earned this, she said, showing me the offer letter. Nobody gave it to me because of my last name or my connections. I earned it with my work. You did. You're brilliant at your job. We celebrated with dinner at a nice restaurant. Not fancy, but nice. After we ordered, Diana said, I've been thinking about something. Yeah? We've been together for 6 months now, living together for 3, and I know that's not a long time by most standards, but it feels longer because of how we met. We skipped all the games and pretending. We started with honesty even when it was ugly. I wasn't sure where this was going. True. I want you to meet my sister. She lives across the country and I haven't told her about us yet because I wasn't sure how to explain everything. But I want her to know about you. About us. I'd like to meet her. Diana smiled with relief. Okay. She's coming to visit next month. Fair warning, she's going to think our origin story is insane. It is insane. But it worked. It did. Diana's sister, Veronica, visited in April. She was younger than Diana by 3 years and worked in environmental law. She had the same sharp intelligence as Diana, but without the family baggage. She'd moved to Seattle right after college and maintained distance from their parents. We picked her up from the airport, and within 5 minutes she was grilling me. So Nathan, my sister tells me you met when she grabbed you in a parking lot and begged you to pretend to be her boyfriend for a family dinner. That true? Completely true. And you just agreed? To walk into a dinner with strangers and lie to them? It seemed like the right thing to do at the time. Veronica studied me. Most guys would have run. What made you stay? Your sister was terrified, and once I understood why, once I saw how her family treated her and how they were pushing her back towards someone who'd hurt her, I couldn't walk away. Veronica looked at Diana. You found a good one. Don't screw this up. That weekend, Veronica told us stories about growing up in the Ashford family, how their father had always used money as control, how their mother prioritized social status over her daughter's happiness, how William had learned to play the game and benefited from it while his sisters struggled, how Diana had tried hardest to please them and suffered most when she couldn't. I left as soon as I could, Veronica said. I knew I'd never be free if I stayed close, but Diana kept trying, kept hoping they'd change. I was stupid, Diana said. You weren't stupid. You were hopeful. There's a difference. Veronica turned to me. Has their father tried to buy you off yet? No. Should I expect that? Eventually. He'll offer you money to leave her, probably a substantial amount. He'll frame it as looking out for his daughter's best interests. If he does, I'll tell him to go to hell. Veronica grinned. Yeah, you're a good one. After Veronica left, things settled into a comfortable rhythm. Diana's career continued to grow. I got promoted to senior engineer. We talked about the future in vague terms, both of us knowing where this was heading but not rushing it. Then, in June, Richard Ashford's lawyer called me at work. Mr. Cross, I represent Richard Ashford. He'd like to meet with you to discuss a private matter. What kind of private matter? He prefers to discuss it in person. Would tomorrow at noon work for you? I agreed out of curiosity. Diana was at a conference that day, so I didn't mention it to her yet. I met Richard's lawyer at his office downtown. Richard was already there, sitting behind a massive desk in a corner office with a view of the city. Nathan, thank you for coming. He didn't stand or offer to shake hands. Have a seat. I sat. What's this about, Mr. Ashford? It's about my daughter and your relationship with her. I've been patient, waiting to see if this situation would resolve naturally. It hasn't. So I'm here to offer you a solution that benefits everyone. I'm listening. Diana is my daughter, and I want what's best for her. You're a decent man from what I've learned, but you're not right for her. You come from different worlds, different expectations, different futures. This relationship will eventually fail, and when it does, Diana will be even further from her family than she is now. Richard opened a folder on his desk. I'm prepared to offer you $250,000 to end the relationship. Clean break. You walk away, tell Diana you've realized it's not working, and move on with your life. The money is yours free and clear, no strings except that you never contact Diana again. I stared at him. You're trying to pay me to break up with your daughter. I'm offering you financial compensation for a situation that's become inconvenient for everyone. You've been dating less than a year. This isn't a serious commitment yet. Except that I love her. And she loves me. Richard's expression didn't change. Love is common, Mr. Cross. Financial security is not. $250,000 is more money than you'd see in years of engineering work. You could pay off student loans, buy a house, invest for your future. All you have to do is walk away from a relationship that has no real future anyway. How do you figure it has no future? Because eventually Diana will realize what she's given up. The security, the lifestyle, the opportunities her family provides. She'll resent you for being the reason she lost all of that. She'll leave you, and you'll be left with nothing. I stood up. Mr. Ashford, I'm going to leave now before I say something I'll regret. But let me be clear. Your daughter is the strongest, bravest person I've met. She walked away from your money and your control because she'd rather live in a small apartment with me than in a mansion with Preston. That's not something that's going to change. And if you knew her at all, if you loved her instead of trying to own her, you'd understand that. Richard's calm facade cracked slightly. You're making a mistake. That money would change your life. It would, but not in a good way. Walking away from Diana for money would change who I am as a person. I'm not interested in that trade. I left the office and immediately called Diana. She was between sessions at her conference. Hey, what's up? Your father just tried to pay me $250,000 to break up with you. Silence. Then, what? I told her everything. The lawyer's call, the meeting, the offer, my response. Diana was quiet for a long moment. $250,000. That's what he thinks our relationship is worth. He thinks that's what it will take to make me leave. He was wrong. I'm so sorry. I should have warned you he might try something like this. You couldn't have known. But Diana, this made me realize something. I don't want to keep dating you. I don't want to keep living together in this undefined space. Her voice went small. You want to break up? No. I want to marry you. I want to build a life that's completely separate from your family and their money and their control. I want to prove to them and to you and to everyone that what we have is real and permanent and not something that can be bought or manipulated. Diana started crying. Are you proposing over the phone? No. I'm giving you a heads up that I'm going to propose properly when you get home from your conference. I wanted you to have time to think about whether that's what you want. Nathan, I've known what I wanted since about 3 weeks after we started dating. Yes. My answer is yes. I haven't actually asked yet. I don't care. I'm saying yes anyway. I was laughing now. Okay, but I'm still going to do this right when you get back. We talked for another 20 minutes until she had to go back to her conference. I spent the next 2 days planning. I called Diana's sister, Veronica, to tell her what happened with Richard and my decision to propose. She was ecstatic. Finally, I was wondering how long you'd wait. Do you have a ring? Not yet. I'm going shopping tomorrow. Can I help? Veronica flew back for a weekend and we went ring shopping together. She helped me pick something Diana would love, simple, elegant, nothing ostentatious. She's going to die when she sees this, Veronica said, in a good way. When Diana got home from her conference, I took her to the park where we'd had our first real date after the coffee shop. It was a Sunday afternoon in July, warm and sunny. We walked to the same bench where we'd sat for hours talking. Close your eyes, I told her. Why? Just do it. She closed her eyes and I knelt down in front of her. Okay, open them. Diana opened her eyes and saw me kneeling with the ring. She immediately started crying. Diana Ashford, I know we met in the strangest possible way. You grabbed me in a parking lot and pulled me into your family drama, and I had no idea what I was agreeing to. But every day since then has convinced me that finding you was the best thing that ever happened to me. You're brave and smart and kind. You chose freedom over security. You chose authenticity over approval. You chose me over everything you'd known. I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you right back. Will you marry me? Yes, absolutely yes. I put the ring on her finger and she pulled me up and kissed me. People walking by smiled and a few applauded. We stayed in the park for another hour, Diana alternating between staring at the ring and kissing me. I need to tell my family, she said eventually. You don't have to tell them anything if you don't want to. No, I want them to know. I want them to understand that their manipulation didn't work, that we're building something real without their input or approval. She called her mother that evening. Patricia answered on the third ring. Diana, I wasn't expecting to hear from you. Hi, Mom, I have news. Nathan and I are engaged. Silence. Then, engaged? Diana, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. He proposed yesterday and I said yes. We're getting married. After less than a year? This is insane. You barely know him. I know him better than I ever knew Preston, and I know that he respects me and supports me and loves me for who I am, not for what my family can provide. Patricia's voice turned sharp. Your father offered him money to leave you. Did he tell you that? He did, and he turned it down. That should tell you everything you need to know about his character. It tells me he's playing a longer game, waiting until you're married to access family money through you. There is no family money to access. Dad cut me off, remember? Nathan and I are building a life on our salaries. That's it. No trust fund, no family support, just two people who work for a living. Patricia was quiet. Then, I don't approve of this marriage. Neither will your father. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm informing you out of courtesy. We're getting married regardless of what you think. Diana hung up before her mother could respond. Her hands were shaking, but her expression was determined. That felt good. Terrifying, but good. I pulled her close. I'm proud of you. I couldn't have done any of this without you. The confidence, the boundaries. Standing up to them, you gave me that. You already had it. You just needed someone to remind you. We started planning the wedding. Small, intimate, just people we actually cared about. My family, Veronica, a few close friends from work. Diana's parents and brother were not invited. She wrestled with that decision, but ultimately stood firm. They spent years making me feel small and controlled. I'm not giving them a platform to do that on my wedding day. The wedding was in September, a little over a year after we'd met in that parking lot. It was outdoors in a botanical garden, simple and beautiful. Veronica was Diana's maid of honor. My best man was Kevin, who'd been with me the night I met Diana. During the ceremony, when it was time for vows, Diana said, Nathan, when I grabbed you in that parking lot, I was desperate and terrified. I was asking you to help me survive one dinner. I had no idea I was actually asking you to help me survive my entire life up to that point. You showed me what real partnership looks like, what respect looks like, what love without conditions looks like. Thank you for saying yes that night, and thank you for keeping saying yes every day since. I love you. My vows were simpler. Diana, Marrying you is the easiest decision I've ever made. Everything that led us here has been complicated and messy, and sometimes painful. But choosing you? That's simple. I choose you today, and I'll choose you tomorrow, and every day after. I love you." After the ceremony, during the reception, Veronica pulled me aside. "I need to tell you something. My parents know about the wedding. They found out through mutual connections. My dad is furious, and my mom is hurt. But honestly, I think my mom is also sad. She's realizing what she's losing. Diana made her choice. They could have supported her at any point. I know, and I'm glad she had you to help her make that choice. But Nathan, they're still her parents. Eventually, this is going to hurt her more than she's admitting. I know. I'm ready for that when it comes." It came sooner than expected. 2 months after the wedding, Diana got a call from a hospital. Her father had suffered a heart attack. He was stable, but asking for her. We drove to the hospital together. Diana was torn between anger at her family and worry about her father. Richard was in a private room, looking smaller and older than he had in his office. Patricia and William were already there. William stood up when we entered. "You have nerve showing up here." Diana ignored him and walked to her father's bedside. "Dad, I heard what happened. Are you okay?" Richard's voice was weak. "Diana, I'm glad you came." "Of course I came. You're my father." Patricia stood up. "Richard needs rest. He doesn't need stress from family drama right now." "I'm not here to cause stress. I'm here because he's in the hospital." Richard waved Patricia off. "Let her stay. I want to talk to my daughter." He looked at Diana with something softer in his expression. "I was wrong. About Preston, about Nathan, about using money to control you. The heart attack made me think about what matters. And what matters is that you're my daughter and I've been a terrible father." Diana's eyes filled with tears. "Dad, I never wanted to lose you. I just couldn't keep living the way you wanted me to. I know, your mother and I, we thought we were protecting you, making sure you had security and status, but we were really just trying to control you." He glanced at me. "Nathan, you turned down $250,000. I respect that. Not many men would. I love your daughter. Money can't compete with that." Clearly, Richard closed his eyes, exhausted. "I'd like to get to know you both properly, without the manipulation and the expectations. Can we try that?" Diana looked at me, and I nodded. "We can try," she said. It wasn't instant healing. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. But slowly, carefully, Diana's relationship with her parents began to change. Richard retired from the company and became less controlling. Patricia started asking Diana about her work and life without criticism. William remained distant, but stopped being overtly hostile. The family dinners started again, but different this time. Real conversations instead of performances. Boundaries instead of demands. 2 years after we got married, Diana got pregnant. We were both excited and terrified. We'd talked about kids but hadn't planned the timing specifically. Now it was happening, and everything felt real in a new way. Diana called her mother to share the news. Patricia cried. Happy tears for the first time Diana could remember. "I'm going to be a grandmother. I promise I'll be better at that than I was at being a mother." The promise was shaky, but genuine. When our daughter was born, we named her Grace. Diana chose it because Grace was what had allowed her family relationships to begin healing. Grace was what had brought us together in that parking lot. Grace was what we hoped to give our daughter as she grew. Patricia and Richard visited the hospital and held their granddaughter with a gentleness Diana had never seen from them. "She's perfect," Patricia whispered. William came too, bringing his wife Ashley. They seemed different around the baby, softer, more human. Preston had gotten married to someone else and moved to another state. Veronica visited and became Grace's favorite aunt immediately. Watching Diana with our daughter, I saw her rewrite her own childhood in real time. She was affectionate and present in ways her parents had never been. She set boundaries, but with love. She encouraged curiosity and independence. She was the mother she'd wished she'd had. When Grace was 6 months old, we took her to the botanical garden where we'd gotten married. It was a sunny day, and we spread a blanket on the grass. "Can you believe it's been almost 4 years since I grabbed you in that parking lot?" Diana asked. "Sometimes it feels longer. Sometimes it feels like yesterday," Do you ever regret saying yes? Never. Not once. Diana looked at our daughter sleeping peacefully in her carrier. I think about what my life would be if you'd walked away that night. I'd probably be back with Preston, or someone my parents approved of. I'd be miserable and pretending everything was fine. I'd never have Grace. You would have figured it out eventually. You're too strong not to. Maybe, but I'm glad I didn't have to. I'm glad you were there. I'm glad you said yes. 2 years later, Diana got pregnant again. This time with a boy we'd name Lucas. Our family grew, and so did the healing with her parents. Richard babysat sometimes, teaching Grace about buildings and structures in his own way. Patricia took Diana shopping for baby things and actually asked what Diana wanted instead of dictating. William stayed cordial at family events. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Diana's career continued to thrive. She eventually went freelance and built her own consulting business. She finally had time for photography again, creating a side business doing family portraits. She was happy in a way she described as whole, doing work she loved while building a family on her own terms. I made partner at my engineering firm. We bought a house with a yard for the kids. We hosted family dinners where everyone actually talked and listened. We built traditions that had nothing to do with status or appearances. We went back to that botanical garden every year on our anniversary, just the two of us while Veronica watched the kids. We sat on the same bench and remembered how it all started. The panic, the desperation, the leap of faith. Grace grew up hearing the story of how Mommy grabbed Daddy in a parking lot and begged him to be her fake boyfriend. She thought it was the most romantic thing ever. Lucas thought it was weird but funny. Both kids understood that their family was different, that their grandparents had made mistakes but were trying to do better, that love sometimes came from unexpected places. Daddy, why did you say yes when Mommy grabbed you? Grace asked one night at bedtime. Because she needed help and I could help her. Sometimes that's enough. But you didn't know her. Not yet, but sometimes you meet someone and you just know they're going to be important. Do you think I'll know when I meet someone important? Maybe. Or maybe you'll just take a chance and see what happens. When Grace was 10 and Lucas was 8, we took them to Marcello's restaurant where everything had started. The place had been renovated but was still there. We sat at a different table and ordered dinner. This is where you met? Lucas asked, looking around skeptically. Parking lot outside, Diana corrected. I saw your father walking in and something told me to ask him for help. Grace leaned forward. What would you have done if he said no? Diana and I looked at each other. We'd never actually discussed that. I don't know, Diana admitted. Probably gone to dinner alone and had a terrible time, or maybe called Aunt Veronica for moral support, or just driven away and not shown up at all. I'm glad Daddy said yes, Grace announced. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist. That's a very good point, I said. We finished dinner and went outside to the parking lot. Diana stood in approximately the spot where she'd grabbed me 15 years earlier. This is it. Right here is where I grabbed your father's arm and changed both our lives. That's so cool, Lucas said. Can we go home now? Grace rolled her eyes at her brother. We walked to our car as a family and drove home to our house filled with photos and projects and the comfortable chaos of 2 kids and a dog. That night, after the kids were asleep, Diana and I sat on our back porch. 15 years, she said. From fake boyfriend to husband to father, that's quite a progression. Best progression of my life. Do you think we'd have found each other eventually if that night had never happened? I don't know. Maybe in some other universe. But I'm glad it happened the way it did in this one. Diana leaned against me. Thank you for being in that parking lot. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for standing up to my family and helping me find my courage. Thank you for building this life with me. Thank you for grabbing me. Best parking lot ambush in history. She laughed. Definitely top 5 at least. We sat there in comfortable silence, 15 years and 2 kids and a mortgage and careers and family healing later. 2 strangers who'd become everything to each other. A desperate request for help that had turned into a lifetime partnership. A fake relationship that had become the most real thing in both our lives. I became someone's emergency fake date for a family dinner. And now she's the mother of my children, the love of my life, the best decision I never planned to make. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.